This is Greg Troutline, Maritime Reporter TV, and we're very pleased to be joined today by Brian Manning, the CEO of XONA Space Systems, to discuss this new satellite company and its plan to provide the most robust and accurate navigation and timing services on the planet. So to start us off, can you just give us a brief background on XONA Space Systems, when and why was it founded?
Sure. Yeah, happy to be here, and thanks for having me. To give a little bit of a background on Zona, where we came from. So the entire founding team all met back at Stanford, as much as Stanford aerospace engineers that all did their degrees together 10 years or so ago. But a lot of the company was really formed around the work of who's now our CTO, Dr. Tyler Reed. And Dr. Tyler Reed, after his PhD, he went to work at Ford in their autonomous driving group. And a lot of the challenges that he was trying to solve there was, what types of navigation sensors, systems, etc., can support the world of hands-free driving, of autonomy, of drones and other things that they're looking at. And what he was finding is that they're able to get these vehicles to work in certain environments, but you took a $30,000 sedan and you added a $500,000 worth of sensors on top of it, and it's just not something that's very scalable. And so, Tyler was really looking at this like, how do you get this to really be scalable? How do you get these things to go from being kind of luxury toys to an extent to something that is really making a difference in everyone's life? That, it's the ambulance that can make it through the snowstorm, or, the tractor that can work in the middle of the farm in a developing world or a small farm or things like that. And to do that, you really got to put as much of that complexity as possible onto the infrastructure. Um, and so, at Zona, really what we were founded around is, we're big believers in, a lot of the potential that this modern technology has, everything from, autonomy, robotics, etc. But also believe that for it to be able to scale, you really need to have the infrastructure there available to support these things. And navigation and having, if you look at all these autonomous and modern things, what is foundational for all of them to be able to operate safely is they simply need to know where they are. And, they need to know where they are to a very high degree of accuracy these days, that, where GPS can generally tell you what road you're on, that's not good enough when you need to know, am I on the right side of the road? And I really need to know what lane I'm in. And I really need to know if I'm in the center of that lane. And so that's kind of the system that we're building. And a lot of it started with the automotive world and bringing that level of accuracy with very high resilience and trust to the world. But we found that, solving the problems and some of the challenges in the automotive world can really transfer over into a lot of other markets, everything from, agriculture, cell phones, defense, and especially maritime is one we've seen a lot of interest in also.
So can you give me a by the numbers look at Zona today using the metrics of your choice with insights, specifically where are you on your evolution?
So the first numbers that come to mind, and I'll circle back to more ones that tie directly to the company here, is really what is the impact level that we believe Zona can have, and like how many devices are out there that what we're building could really impact into. And if you look at some of the other incredibly impactful technologies in history, I mean, even take something like the iPhone. I think there's like 2 to 3 billion iPhones have ever been sold. And there's, I think, about 3 billion users on Facebook today. There's 5.5 billion people in the world that have access to the internet, and there's over 6 billion active GPS devices. I mean, so that, like, the number of devices out here that are utilizing this system is just it's on a scale that very few, if any, technologies have really ever gotten to. And that's what gets us excited, is that all of these are looking for better performance or would like to have better performance in different areas. And so that's something that really attracted me, and I think attracted a lot of the people we have here at Zona to that, is the ability to make impact on a global scale, to just that many things. And so we're about 5 years old. We're about 25 people here. We just closed our latest funding round, so we are growing and hiring now. We launched our first satellite in 2022, and now we're on track to launch our next the first production class one coming up next year. And then from there, we'll be growing up and building out the system to get the full service up and active within the next few years here.
Like what when you say you're going to be full service, how many satellites will be aloft?
Sure. So we can start services and at least have basic capabilities available in a few areas of the world with even less than 20 satellites. The final system is about 250. And so we'll be gradually growing from that first constellation up to the larger ones. And those are numbers that once upon a time sounded, may have sounded like a really big number. But if you look at what's been going on in the new space world and what's really enabled us to exist, is not only the reduced cost of access to space and launch costs going down, but also satellite and satellite manufacturing that things are getting more commoditized.
Again, I understand you're launching the satellite network, but can you dig a little deeper? What exactly is the Zona product slash service offering? And I guess how is your offer different materially from what's on the market today already?
Sure. So the best way to think of it is like super GPS. And so the way that that's different from currently what's out there. And so as I mentioned, we kind of came out of the autonomous car world, and then there's a couple big challenges that you can kind of boil down into three major pain points, which is precision, power, and protection. That's how we try and make it memorable. And so from a precision standpoint, it's going from something that is, several meters down to several centimeters. And that has, fairly obvious use cases when you're trying to stay, hey, is this vehicle in the center of the lane or not? Even offshore and marine, that we've seen this when you start doing, surveying, or trying to keep, a drilling rig or something dialed into its location to within centimeters. Centimeters do count even if you're out on the open water. The power and protection side are fairly closely tied. That from a protection standpoint, um, GPS is an amazing service. But, it's a government service. It's government first, and that means the government gets the goodies. Generally, the military gets access to the goodies, and then the civilians, they certainly get a service, but they don't get access to all the toys that the DoD side has. And one of those toys that the DoD side has today is just a protected service, one that's encrypted and authenticated. And so ours will be the first civilian available service that has that encryption, has that protection layer. That's really incredibly important, especially as you move into things that are not just safety critical, that it's human lives on the line, but also even just liability critical. Um, and that could be a big financial problem if you're off, or if you're getting in the wrong position, or if a ship gets into the wrong spot and gets stuck in a canal, for example, or something like that. And then the other side, the power side. So power is tied to the protection. There are other, I guess, protective aspects designed into our signal. Power is one of the bigger ones, though, that there's a lot of jamming, spoofing, especially what we see kind of in the Black Sea areas around Russia right now. We've seen a lot in Israel recently. And if you're in the middle of the open sea and all you got is GPS, and then someone starts jamming it, or even worse, sending out fake signals, it can put you in a pretty bad situation. And so our signals are, substantially stronger. Like I said, have some other protection characteristics built in to really make them, 100x or more resilient to interferences, whether that's intentional or unintentional interferences that can be pretty damaging to GPS today.
Well, and I appreciate that. I know, every company has its own secret sauce, and I'm quite certain you're not going to tell me what your secret sauce is. But just I guess what to you, what's the key to your technology? What's the differentiator? Is it a software? Is it an encryption? Or I guess what kind of separates your tech from what's out there, or what could be coming, I guess.
Yeah, so what's on the market today? Obviously, there's the free government provided services.
Yep.
Those tend to be the big differentiator is that we're 150 times stronger than those services, which makes them that much more resilient to jamming. Having the protection on board, that what's available to civilians, you can't get in a protected service. That it's up to you on the receiver side to try and protect yourself from fake signals. And then the precision side also, that what's available. You can buy correction services and some other things, but they typically require pretty complex user equipment. where, back to the entire theory of the company is built around that we take all that complexity and put it, into the infrastructure on the space layer, meaning you can start to get centimeter level accuracy and very high accuracy out of even, more simple low cost devices than what's out there today.
The sectors we cover, maritime, offshore energy, subsea, ports and logistics, holistically a small part of your equation. As you start to roll the services out, I guess what specifically can you put in perspective the opportunity that you see in those sectors?
Yeah, a lot of the, what we've seen, the challenges when we talk to folks in the maritime regions are jamming and interference, that you can get even pretty far offshore. You can continue to get issues with that. Again, certainly more concentrated in areas of the world. And that's, it's tougher you can put a LiDAR or a camera on a ship. It's probably not going to tell you where you are that well. When you're out there in the middle of the ocean, GPS might be all you have. So you really need to trust it, and you really need to have very robust, reliable services available to you. We've started to see interest actually with the very high accuracy we have in more mapping applications also. And so whether that's, subfloor mapping or even inland waterways, and other things that, okay, if you're, a boat that's out there and you're using it to do mapping, you need to know where you are to several centimeters or better. If you're, that's going to dictate how accurate any of the measurements you're taking are. And so the more accuracy, the better you can get in, the more that you're just reducing the error stack on whatever you're mapping. And even ports and logistics, IoT devices has been a very interesting one. That a lot of the value of a container or an IoT device is knowing exactly where it's at. And our signal being so much stronger can actually start to penetrate 1 to 2 walls, bringing the security to it, especially for high value goods. Our service will be able to tell a device where it's at with much higher accuracy and much more of the time than the existing satellite navigation services that are available.